A festive swim turns into a nightmare when 41-year-old Tomas Butterfield takes to the Californian seas on Christmas Eve. In the turbulent water, a great white shark is on the hunt and spots the outline of Tomas on the surface. It torpedoes through the water column, powering towards the unsuspecting bodyboarder. Hit like and subscribe. This is Fierce. For all your outdoor essentials, visit fierceoutdoor.com. We specialize in gear that keeps you safe and prepared for any wildlife adventure. Gear up for your next trip into the wild at fierceoutdoor.com, where safety meets adventure. Christmas was fast approaching in December 2021. Tomas had decided to spend the festivities in Morro Bay, California. While in the northern state, Tomas developed a love for the ocean. Anything to do with the water he enjoyed, whether it was fishing, diving, or bodyboarding. He loved the outdoors and the thrill of adventure. At 41 years old, he worked with his father Scott in Sacramento. On December 23, 2021, Tomas left his home in Sacramento and made his way 300 miles south to Morro Bay. A popular seaside city, Morro Bay is most famous for Morro Rock, a large volcanic rock protruding from the mouth of the harbor, reaching 576 feet above the surface of the sea. The sandy beach and views across the bay and the towering Morro Rock are a real draw for visitors, as is the surfing and bodyboarding. The following day, on Christmas Eve, Tomas headed down to the water from his mother's house. He was planning on bodyboarding that morning before spending the rest of the day with his mother and brother and preparing for Christmas Day. But tragically, he would never have the chance to open his presents the next day. As he pulled on his wetsuit and trotted across the sand, his fate had been sealed. He headed towards what is known as the Pit. Situated near the base of Morro Rock, the Pit is slightly off the beaten track and is a great surfing spot. The waves in Morro Bay are biggest in the winter, usually averaging 6 feet in height. It was to be an exhilarating morning before Tomas settled down for the festivities ahead. Although the water was cold, his wetsuit soon warmed him as he entered the water at around 10:30 that morning. There were other surfers already riding the waves when he paddled out. The conditions were quite poor. In fact, they were described by some as horrendous, but they didn't stop the devoted surfers from a Christmas Eve paddle. Tomas was enjoying himself as the waves propelled him to shore over and over again, but something was making its way along the coastline. A marine predator. An opportunistic hunter that was always on the lookout for a meal. Seals and sea otters are common in the waters at Morro Bay. They provide food for great white sharks as they dart in and out of the seaweed and kelp forests below the waves. A great white shark swam below the surface. Above it, he could make out the outline of 41-year-old Tomas as he straddled his bodyboard. The water was turbid from recent rainfall. The visibility was poor. Whether it was a case of mistaken identity or whether it considered Tomas as prey, it decided then and there to engage. It suddenly torpedoed upwards, its tail driving it through the water column with power and speed. Its greatest asset was its element of surprise. As it came within feet of the oblivious bodyboarder, it opened its jaws and made contact, powering into Tomas with such force that he was sent flying from his bodyboard. He didn't know what had hit him, and as the teeth closed down around his head and shoulder, the force was unbearable. The damage caused by the bite was devastating, something that Tomas wouldn't have been able to dwell on, as the attack was over within minutes. This is the most likely scenario, as nobody witnessed the attack. Nobody knows if Tomas was able to fight back or whether the damage was so devastating that he was dead within seconds. The great white released his grip, dived below the surface, and circled back around. It reappeared beside the stricken bodyboarder, its head emerging from the water, breaking through the surface as it bit down once more, this time around Tomas's chest. Then, as quickly as it arrived, the shark swam away without taking Tomas with it. He now lay unconscious in the water, face down, still attached to the ankle cord to his bodyboard. Rebecca Frimmer was also surfing that morning. As she was waiting for her next wave, she noticed a bright blue bodyboard bobbing about in the water. It was being dragged toward the shore with each wave, but something was holding it back. She pulled up alongside the bodyboard and pulled at the cord. When the body rolled over, her heart leapt as she realized this wasn't a drowned victim, this was a shark attack victim. She pulled him to the shore and shouted at some people on the beach. They were walking along the sand, taking in the scenery when Rebecca splashed frantically in the shallows, dragging Tomas's body onto dry land. Others rushed to Rebecca's aid, but tragically Tomas had already succumbed to his injuries. Emergency services were called, and they arrived a few minutes later at 10:48. Paramedics pronounced him dead at the scene. Then came the heartbreaking reality of informing his family. They received the worst phone call of their lives on Christmas Eve, a time that should be spent celebrating with family and friends. Following the autopsy on Tomas, the evidence raised more questions about the specifics of the attack than answers. Tomas had been bitten on the right shoulder, right side of his chest cavity, and on the head. On his chest, there were two distinctive arcs where the shark had readjusted his grip and bitten down a second time. The radius of these arcs was 16 inches, or 40 centimeters, an enormous bite that led to his untimely death. As is often the case with sharks, a tooth had become dislodged from its jaws during the attack and was found in Tomas's back. DNA evidence left by the shark determined it to have been a great white. Where the shark had bitten down on Tomas's head, he had suffered fractures on the right side of the skull. Great white sharks can bite down with a force of 4,000 psi, allowing them to crush their prey as well as slice open skin and muscle from their sharp teeth. Tomas's ribs on both the left and right sides were also crushed. The coroner reported that the cause of death was determined to be from blunt force trauma that took his life in a matter of minutes. Morro Bay Harbor Patrol shut down the beach immediately following the attack. It reopened the following day, but people were warned to stay out of the water for 24 hours. They took a boat out to clear the water of any other swimmers or surfers. The conditions were quite rough. Heavy rainfall had churned the seas up, reducing visibility in the water. Murky water is common when shark attacks occur. Experts often refer to the case of mistaken identity, especially when visibility is poor. The last time a shark attack was reported in San Luis Obispo County was 2 years before, when a surfer was injured at Montana de Oro. It was 18 years earlier when a fatality happened in 2003. A woman who was swimming with sea lions in Avila Beach was attacked and killed. Human-shark interactions that have occurred along the coastline of California have been recorded since 1950. Interactions are counted as any incident where a shark has come into contact with a person, kayak, or surfboard unprovoked, whether they cause injury or not. Between 1950 and 2021, there were 201 incidents in California. 107 of those caused injury, with 15 resulting in fatalities. Most of those incidents involved great white sharks. They are drawn to the California coast due to the abundance of prey, like sea lions and otters. The warming seas, due to global warming, are bringing them further north along the west coast of the U.S. than ever before.